Okay, so it will also include the right of the accused on custodial investigation. Okay, what do you mean by custodial investigation? When when your liberty is already controlled by the state, like when you are arrested by the police officer, that's the time that you can invoke, okay, the right to remain silent, okay, because you are now under custodial investigation. The meaning of custodial investigation: when you are apprehended by the police, okay, at the time you need a counsel. Anything you say will be used against you. Okay, you have the right to have a counsel, okay, preferably of your own choice. If not, the state will provide you with one. That right cannot be waived except in writing and upon the presence of the counsel. So we call it as the, okay, Miranda doctrine, okay, or Miranda rights. So you understand very well the meaning of self-incrimination. You have to analyze carefully before giving an answer. So the question normally in a cross-examination will eventually lead you to conclude that probably you are guilty. But as to asking you direct question that would lead to your own conviction, that is called self-incrimination. Okay, and that should be objected, and the accused should invoke that right. Now, under custodial investigation, because normally these two are similar, only that when we say self-incrimination, that is conducted by the prosecutor or the one who will prosecute you for you to be put in prison, is called the prosecuting attorney or prosecuting lawyer, or simply a prosecutor. Okay, we have public prosecutor. Okay, the work, this their job is uh, they represent the state on criminal cases, and you will make it sure that you will be in prison. They're going to prove and present evidence that is against the accused. On the other hand, you have the right to your own counsel. You can hire a lawyer, a private lawyer, or if none, then you can ask from PAO. But the requirements that you must prove that you are an indigent person. Okay, but they normally accepts on on the defendant's side, not on the accused, not on the one who files the case. Okay, for the person who files the case, it depends. They can rely on the public prosecutor, or if they had a claim, civil claims or civil damages, they going to ask after proven guilty, then they can hire a private prosecutor. Okay, so but still that private prosecutor is under the control of the public prosecutor. Now, um, so on the other hand, when we say custodial investigation, you are under the custody of the police officer, okay, the one who apprehend you, whether with warrant of arrest or without warrant, because a person can be arrested with or without warrant, depending on the circumstances. So the exemptions when a person can be arrested without warrant are those times when you are caught in the act. Okay, generally there are three: in flagrante delicto, hot pursuit. Okay, and the person to be arrested is the one who escaped from penal establishment. Okay, so for on the first place, okay, a private person can arrest, but of course there's no assurance that he can do it with ease. So that's why he may ask a help from the police or any peacekeeping force. Now, the on hot pursuit, okay, so a person may be arrested if he actually committing, about to commit, okay, and has just committed the crime, and person who to who arrest has the personal knowledge that the person actually committing the crime. So Basically, it's called hot pursuit. Why it's hot? Because you know the crime has just been committed and you are going to pursue him. So, as to when will it last, well, that depend on circumstances. Um, a hot pursuit conducted after a day, it's not a hot pursuit anymore. Okay, when it's a hot pursuit, the pursuit of a person, the chase of a person is continuous at the time when the information is given up to the time of the arrest. But as the time it stops arresting or apprehending and still they continue, they stop and then on the after an hour or a day they continue, that's no longer hot pursuit. They need now warrant of arrest. They have to secure it from the judge. Otherwise, that arrest may be illegal. And you know what the effect of illegal arrest? Anything that they gather or evidence um, acquired cannot be admitted in evidence in court. So all their efforts will be in vain if they do not follow that hot pursuit doctrine. Okay, or simply you are in a plain view. Like right now, there are many checkpoints, and it so happened that they see upon opening the window of your car, a gun was displayed, or when they when a police officer on their tour duty, they were able to see on plain view, then they can arrest you even without warrant. Okay, so or a stop and frisk like entering into a mall. Okay, the the guard was able to, or the police officer was able to notice that you had a bulging something unusual in your waist, and upon checking it found out that it's a gun. And upon asking whether you had two permit, there are actually two. One is the license to possess, okay, or and the permit to carry. It's two. If you only have one, it's dangerous. Okay, it's still illegal possession of firearm. Permit to carry is you can transport it. Um, I think it requires another permit, the mission order. So if you don't have it, it's still illegal, and it's punishable by law. And the penalty is imprisonment still. So another thing, we go to the number two question: what is an archipelagic doctrine? Okay, so I already I discussed this one thoroughly on the first or second day of our discussion. Okay, um, seeing Philippines now not just a mere islands composed of um, several islands and islets, but enclose it, okay, with the three, 12 nautical miles from the low water mark, and that's part of the, if you count it from the last tip of the island, the from counting it from the low water mark and enclose that, okay, that's part of the Philippines. So you can even say or recite the entire section 1, okay, of the Philippine of the national territory. That Philippines comprises of um, territorial water, sea, and aerial domain, fluvial, and terrestrial, okay, including its seabed, subsoil, and other marine areas. It also includes the territories over which Philippines has sovereignty. Okay, it refers to the historical rights of the Philippines. It's not only included, again, take note on Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Okay, so any other claims over which Philippines has sovereignty, it's also part of the Philippines, and that includes historic rights. So we do not limit our understanding that Philippines is just Philippine territory. That also include within the exclusive economic zone, okay, and the continental shelf. And what is continental shelf? Continental shelf, that is the long elongation which even extend up to even beyond the exclusive economic zone. Okay, if it belongs to the same plate, okay, plate meaning the tectonic or um, the contour of, of the seabed. Okay, so if it's a prolonged or long prolongation, okay, up to a certain mile, then that's still part of the Philippines, and that includes the Binham Rice. Now, okay, so number three, explain double jeopardy. Okay, so what is double jeopardy? So if a crime has been um, or a case is filed on the same person, same subject matter, uh, and the same jurisdiction. Okay, so if the case is now decided or even pending in court, and another case is also charged or filed, not even if not the same, as long as the crime is an element of the crime that was already in court or pending in court, then that is called double jeopardy. Okay, or simply means that the person cannot be put twice in the same jeopardy. If one case is already filed, okay, on is pending or even decided by the court, then a person can no longer be prosecuted on the same offense. Example, in a case of rape, okay, a case of rape is pending, but prior to rape, there are acts that may also be committed by the offender, okay, like touching private parts, which constitute acts of deliciousness or lasciviousness. So, um, acts of lasciviousness is a separate crime, supposedly, right? But since it is an element in the crime of rape, that acts of lasciviousness cannot be filed, okay? Because it's an element of the commission of the crime of rape, which is higher than acts of lasciviousness, okay? So, as long as it fall under the same class or the same, or if the crime committed, previously committed, has and the new case or crime committed is an element or has similar title, okay, then that subsequent filing constitute now double jeopardy. It's similar to the word res judicata, okay. So there are two aspects actually of double jeopardy here. One is litis pendentia or a case pending in court, and the other one is res judicata or when there is already a judgment by the court on the same issue, acquitting or convicting the accused. For example, if the the first offense is rape and the accused was acquitted because the proof beyond reasonable doubt was not duly established, then and a case filed later on similar or the same title or even an element of the crime, like in an example, in a case of acts of lasciviousness is filed later on, then that is called res judicata. Res judicata. Why? Because there is now a judgment in court on the same aspect. Okay, that acts of lasciviousness, although an element of um, a crime in rape, that's the uh, preliminary before rape, right? Okay, so before raping, you touch those private parts, and you were acquitted on the crime of rape. Then that touching a private part cannot be instituted anymore. Why? Because there is now res judicata. Okay, so remember that. Okay, when there is a conviction, okay, that's double jeopardy already. Okay, so or when the case is pending on the same subject matter or the same issue, then a new case filed later on, which are elements, okay, is okay, it's now called double jeopardy. However, if the elements of the crime falling under different jurisdiction, like one can be prosecuted under the ombudsman and the other one is under civil service, okay, then there is no double jeopardy. There is no double jeopardy. Why? Because of a different jurisdiction. So remember the elements. Okay, same subject matter, same information, same jurisdiction. Okay? But another thing that you have to remember is that there's also a waiver. Okay, when you file a case, one is that um, certificate of non-forum shopping. And what is the certificate of non-forum shopping? It is a certificate that you did not file any information to any court over the same subject matter. Had you known any pending case before it over the same subject matter, you are going to inform the court, okay, of its status, okay. And take note, if you do it deliberately, knowing that there is a case pending or there is and if you file another case in court on the same subject matter just to shop, just to get a favorable judgment, then you will be held liable administratively. The lawyer will be held liable administratively. Okay, and the dismissal may be final, acquitting, um, acquitting, or the case will be dismissed, and the dismissal will be without. No, it's with with prejudice. What do you mean by with prejudice? Okay, with prejudice, you cannot file anymore. You cannot file. Why? Because you intend to deceive the judge. Okay, you you know, in the practice of law, you have to be very honest, and that's why the most honest persons are kanang those who in the judiciary and in those who in the practice of law. Okay, so it's the client who deceived the judge, so they are the one who are not honest. Now, so that is double jeopardy. Okay, no person can be put twice in the same subject matter and the same offense or over the same with the same jurisdiction. But you have to memorize its verbatim definition. I do not have notes here. I only facing the computer and you. Okay, what I just said are my previous knowledge. Okay, it's called stack stack up knowledge, stack knowledge. Okay, so if you cannot recall, it's called stack up. If you can recall, yeah, it's stack knowledge. Now, I go to the other one. Okay, explain the no imprisonment for non-payment of debts. Is it true? Yes, it's true. Really, you cannot be imprisoned if you cannot pay your debts. Why? The reason is simple. The more you cannot pay if you are in prison. So, for you to give a chance to find a remedy on your loan or your debts, then you will not be in prison. Okay? However, take note of the however. However, meaning you have to, as it's now a different thing. So, do not put however there if you have only same thought. However, if you make a promissory note and sign it that you're going to pay on this particular date, but you did not, then that constitute deceit. Okay? So, there will be imprisonment. Now, in the several cases where a person promised to pay, okay, issuing a post-dated check, okay, which normally happen when you purchase a house and lot or real estate property, okay, or a car mortgage, to the bank, okay, upon default of several payments, just three to or five, depending on the number of months of number of years that you were able to pay, and depending also whether it is a real property or a personal property. So what governs between real or personal property? There are two laws. One is that the Maseda, and the other one is the recto law. So they cannot get it right away. So because of that law, consumers are protected such that if you are in default, the property will not be gi- um, will not be taken directly or immediately by the creditor. Okay, there are different number of months. If you're able to pay for, let's say, 5 years, they cannot just get it upon 3 months default. Okay, probably another month, like 4 months default is the time that they can foreclose. But you have the right to to redeem it. Okay, and no one else. Okay, the price, in fact, during auction, when it is sold during auction, you are the one who should first be prioritized. Okay, so but if you cannot pay that amount, which is very low, this is the time that you can entertain other buyers. Now, so no person will be imprisoned for non-payment of debt. Okay, sometimes, most of the times, the creditors use this law for a collection. Okay, threatening some buyers that to pay. Okay, so perhaps they do not understand, but if you understand this one, just simply, no person will be imprisoned for non-payment of debts. Okay, so if the bank or the issuance of a check was done in good faith, meaning you really had the right in or intention to pay it, but all of a sudden, due to unfavorable time, or the time doesn't favor to you, you become insolvent and you cannot pay anymore, then actually you can file for insolvency. Or if um, if you still have other properties to pay, then um, there will be no imprisonment at all. Okay, after all, it's not up, it's your fault. Well, probably um, we put persons which are useful to the community in prison, which the law, and in fact the new law now prohibits it. Okay, as much as possible, we have to save human resources. Okay, so in that case, you will not be imprisoned, but you have to pay um, with interest, with legal interest. Now, so issuance now of a bouncing check, if done deliberately, like you really do not have any sufficient fund to cover the loan, but still you issue a check. Okay, you know what a check? Check, it simply means that since you cannot, it's impractical to bring all the time the money, millions of pesos in your own pocket or in your own um, wallet. So, and you may be afraid of a robbery that your neighbor might do to you. You put your money in the bank, and all you have to do is to bring a check. The bank will give you a checkbook. Okay, so it's there are notes. It's actually a note. So payable to the order of blank. Okay, at the amount of blank. So you put your name and then the amount, and then your signature. Once it is endorsed to another person, the one who carries that amount. All that he or she has to do is to endorse it to the bank, and the bank will just upon recognizing the signature of the endorser, okay, will um, encash it to your favor. Okay, what's the purpose of that transaction? For easy commercial transaction. Okay, it's done with ease. Now, if you really do not have that money, but still you issue that amount, 10,000, but you only have zero in your, you only have zero amount. Okay, that constitute what? That constitute um, stuff. You deceive. Okay, you deceive. You deceive the person. Okay, and you ruin, you destroy the business transaction, the trust on the honesty of a person. Okay, now we go to number five. Okay, but any other explanation that as long as the keywords are there, then it's still worth the maximum points. Now we go to another one. Explain custodial investigation. I already explained this one. In fact, when I explained self-incrimination, partly I also explained custodial investigation. Okay? There's a time when you will be arrested and you have the right to remain silent. So, by the way, confession done without um, or deliberately uttered, even if there was no question asked, can be used as evidence. Okay? But if you're asked and you on one thing and then you continuously answered to the extent that you admitted that you committed the offense, then that is voluntary and admissible in court. What's that? Somebody's calling me. Okay. For a while. For a while. For a while, I'm going to end this one and then I'll be back right back. Okay, somebody's calling me for a while.